Hey everybody, this is Matthew Soltesiak, and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast, part of the Minute Media Podcast Network. The Detroit Lions are now in a new, grittier era, and we look beyond just the kneecaps when it comes to the analysis. I speak with a variety of guests and interview key players, gaining more insight on what makes this team go. Welcome to another episode. In this episode, we finally get to talk about when and where the Detroit Lions are playing in 2025, because the NFL has dropped the entire 2025 NFL schedule. We'll break down the good, the bad, and potentially the ugly. That and more. Let's get to it, Lions fans.
This is Mike McMahon, and you are listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast.
Joining me today is Coach Jerry Angers. He was named Michigan High School Coach of the Year, as well as Coach of the Week by the Detroit Lions. He is now the Training and Scouting Director for Bull Rush Sports. Coach, we get to know when and where they're playing. Good to have you here.
Oh, great to be here. Anytime we get to talk about this.
And joining both of us is James Cook, the senior sports writer for the Traverse City Record Eagle. He was also named Sports Writer of the Year for Community Newspaper Holdings Incorporated. James, glad to have you here for this conversation as well.
Always good to be here, man.
All right. Well, I thought maybe the Lions would open the NFL season against Philadelphia on the road. Didn't happen. The NFL went a different direction for that. They went with division rival. And that's a theme I think we see around the league a little bit. So maybe that's why the NFL did this. I still think it's a big miss if you ask me. I think a non-divisional game would have been better to kick off the season, but they went the other route. So how about the Lions? Well, overall thoughts on the schedule, just a sentence or two. What are your initial takeaways from this? James, let's start with you.
Well, we knew it was going to be a meat grinder of a schedule, just knowing the opponents, so the getting to know where they're going to be and what weeks and everything, it's still a meat grinder. I think it's almost a little bit worse just because of they're going to have a couple of cold weather games in December that they haven't had for a little while. So that can be an extra little challenge there. But, I think people knew that this was going to be a pretty rough road, quite literally.
Yeah, quite literally. The road's the rougher part of this one, too, for sure. Coach, some of your thoughts, just initial ones.
Gauntlet, playing against the best. And to be the best, you have to beat the best. So this is going to be a fun one to watch to see how it pans out. I will bring up again, we were 15-2 last year with 16 guys hurt on defense. But that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. All right. Well, some good stats right there, and some people overlook that. I'm going to say I don't necessarily like it, but I also did not expect to like it either because, like James said, we knew it was going to be a gauntlet. That road schedule was going to be really rough. And why is that? Well, the Lions aren't the only ones with the rough road schedule, guys. And, the NFC North especially, last year the NFC North played the NFC West and the AFC South last year. This year, we're playing the AFC North and the NFC East. Much tougher opponents there. And it just so happens that we get the weaker opponents at home and the tougher opponents on the road. So that also didn't help, right? And if you want to look at toughness of schedule, Caesar Sportsbook put this out. The Lions have the third toughest schedule. The New York Giants actually have the toughest. Not a surprise that the Bears have a tougher schedule because, well, they're the Bears. They're playing the Lions, the Vikings, and the Packers, right? So that right there makes it tougher based on divisional opponents. But right behind the Lions are the Eagles. They're right behind them. Then the Cowboys. Then you've got the Packers, Vikings, and Commanders. I mean, those NFC teams all have very tough schedules. So I know we don't like what the Lions have to go through, but we are not alone in this one. It's a lot of the good teams in the NFC are going to be playing some tough games this year. And again, the numbers don't always equal the way they're expected to equal because some teams do better, some do worse. The 49ers were not what they thought they were going to be last year. So with that, let's see how things shake out for the Lions. So we broke it down into chunks, about 4 to 5 game quadrants. The opening quadrant, the Lions opened the season on the road against the Packers. And then they play the Bears the following week at home for season opener. Then they go to Baltimore the week after that. That is a Monday night football contest. Then September 28th, week 4, they return home for the Browns. Coach, what are some of your initial takeaways from this opening quadrant, the month of September?
Well, I love our first two games, and I'm going to tell you why. I mean, first of all, we play in Green Bay. Okay, first game on the road. That's one of our tough road games. All right, so let's go there. All right, Green Bay's loaded. Green Bay's gonna be really good. It's a home. Is it a home advantage for the Packers? We found that out the last few years. It has not been home advantage. But I'm gonna tell you one thing that you got to think about. The Green Bay Packers have to defend us, right, and have to go against our defense with a new OC and a new DC. They have no tendencies to set up a game plan against us. Even though we're saying we're going to do a lot of stuff the same offensively, Shepard's going to do, there's still going to be more downfield passing. There's going to be maybe some more blitz passing. There's going to be where we may line up 340-pound D tackle and let Hutch just go crazy pass it, defense. So that's a bonus for us, you guys. And I love that we open up with the Packers, on the road, first game, coming out of camp with a whole new game plan. Yeah, they're going to watch some preseason games. They're not going to get what we're going to do. So I'm really excited about that one. I think that's a plus for us. I think the advantage is to us more than anybody. The Bears game again, week 2. And again, that's they're the best team in the NFL next year, the way everybody's talking. And we're bringing our old OC home, and they've been talking a lot of smack back and forth. So look out. Ravens on Monday night, extra day after the Bears. It's going to be a lot different story than the last time we went. I may be flying out to this one, and then of course the Browns. So I like the first 4 games. I love it. That's the blue division to me.
All right. Well, those first 2, I mean, we waited a long time to play a divisional opponent last year. And this year it's smack you in the face. Let's get to this right out of the gate, James. And I'm going to agree with Coach. I like the Packers season opener because you're on the road in Green Bay in September. You're not going to get any snow. We've got the opposite of that later on, and we'll get to that. But I'm good with that. And I like the idea of Coach saying, "Hey, there's no tape on us yet," and we're playing divisional team right there. How do you assess the opener of this?
Yeah, I think because Kelvin Shepherd, people think he's just going to be an Aaron Glenn clone. I don't think that that's going to be the case. He's going to have similar tendencies, just because he's brought up in the same system. I mean, he coached under Aaron Glenn's system for years, but I don't think he's going to be the exact same guy. So yeah, teams don't know what to expect. They don't know what to expect from Morton either. Going to the Packers, like you said, is good to do it earlier than later. You avoid the weather. That Bears game is going to be interesting. The return of Ben Johnson, but will he have everything in by that point? I mean, everything installed that he wants to install. I don't know. By week 2, his offense is pretty complex. So we'll see if Caleb Williams is able to digest all of that. Jared Goff is an NFL veteran who has, a boatload of experience under his belt and could take that offense in and make all those reads and do all those things. Can Caleb Williams? I don't know. I think that's a pretty big question mark. Baltimore, the last time they went to the Baltimore, not good. Hopefully it will be much better this time around.
Can't be much worse.
And then you get the short week for the Browns. If you're going to get a short week, if we want any opponent after a short week, it's probably the Cleveland Browns, right?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, a team without a quarterback, sort of.
You have 5.
They have they have 5, and you're not sure who's going to be the starter. By week 4, you'll know. But the first 4 weeks are going to be interesting, but I don't think it's an impossible task or anything like that. The Lions do have at one of the fewest air miles that they have to travel of all the teams in the league, despite having 9 road games, not 8 like half the teams have. So, and the other thing with the Packers game is it is not part of the gold package this year. So it might be a little bit harder to get tickets for Lions fans this time around than the last two seasons when it was part of the gold package and all those Milwaukee fans sell their tickets.
Yeah, I figured the Packers are excited to have it their opener because there's going to be Packer mania there, right? And it's going to be harder for Lions fans to get in the gate for that. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
no, as I said, I like the Packers starting out. Yeah, coach, we got two new new defensive and offensive coordinators, so people don't know what to expect. And a lot of people are discounting the Lions a little bit because of the new coordinators, but these are not unknown quantities. They're not. I don't expect them to significantly alter the system. They'll change it a bit, I'm sure. But you know what else? Don't we have like 19 out of 22 starters returning because Aleem McNeil's out for a bit? Like, we've got so many returning starters on this team that you've got a lot of familiarity a lot of other teams don't have. And the Chicago Bears, I want them early. I mean, they're getting used to a new head coach, a new system, a new everything. And so I love that we have them in week 2. I think that's a great home opener for the Detroit Lions. So I love the way it starts out. Baltimore, Monday Night Football. That'll be fun. It will be fun. Yeah, and you get it right in September. You know, I think that's what we wanted out of the 49ers last year, and they buried it in December, and you know, the 49ers were already buried by the time we got there. So high stakes, definitely expected to be better than the last time. And when I say high stakes, just, you know, a lot of media attention, right? Monday Night Football, I believe it's a standalone Monday night one. I don't think there's a competing one. I know they have some that are dual Monday night matchups. But that will be a lot of fun. And then you're right, James, if you're coming home on a short week, you know, the Browns, not a bad thing to have. So great start to the season right there. And again, it's going to be a gauntlet of a season, guys. So nothing's going to be easy this year. Any final thoughts on those first four before we move to the next quadrant? No? Okay. Well, let's open up October by going to Cincinnati. All right. They're going to go to the Bengals for October 5th for week 5. Then they play at Kansas City on October 12th. That's a Sunday night football game. Week 7 after that, they'll be returning home, and they will be playing Tampa on Monday Night Football, their second Monday Night Football game of the year. That's after the Sunday Night Football, so a little bit of space there. Then they're on a bye week, and after that bye week, November 2nd will be week 9, and they will be home against the Minnesota Vikings. Coach, what jumps out to you on this?
Bengals game is going to be a shootout. That receiving core they have and the receiving core we have, that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm hoping Hendrickson is not on the Bengals for that game. And again, that'll definitely help us. You know, and again, coming home, you know, had a home game against the Browns, going into that Chiefs, been there, done that. Sunday Night Football, we went there when they were getting their rings and their banners hung and stuff like that, and we smacked them. And we're a better football team now than we were back then. The Bucs get the extra day, Monday Night Football. You know, Baker's going to be ready to go. Hopefully Baker throws a couple more passes to Derek Barnes. Then the bye week. And then, of course, we got the Vikings at home, which should be again. So, again, this is the black part of my stretch, the black and blue division. And I look forward to these things. And I think the bye week, it would have been nice to be 1 week later, but I still like where it's at. So look forward to these 4 games.
Okay, and it's balanced in a way where, you know, the first 4 you have 2 on the road and 2 at home, and this group you have 2 on the road and you have 2 at home. James, what are some things jumping out to you on this?
Yeah, I do like where the bye week is. I mean, it's about as close to the middle as you can get. The last few years, the Lions have always seemed to get an early bye week. And then you see the injuries just keep piling up as the season goes on. Having it in the more towards the middle, I think, will be beneficial to them. And having that Tampa game right before it means that they don't have an opponent right after on a short week after playing in Monday Night Football. When they play the Bears in week 2, the Bears are going to be coming off Monday Night Football and playing the Lions on a short week in Ben Johnson's first road game as a head coach. So there's a lot of extra preparation that comes into that for the head coach, you know, going on the road. So, you know, I like the way that middle of the second quarter kind of sets up. You know, they don't have any short weeks in between. They get, you know, 8 days in between KC and Tampa. and then they get the whole week off after Tampa instead of a short week. So that sets up pretty nicely.
All right. And, after those opening two divisional games, we have a little bit of a run here with non-divisional opponents, and even playing some AFC teams with, you go Baltimore, Browns, Bengals, KC. That's four AFCs right in a row there. Kansas City, a Sunday Night Football, that should get a lot of viewers. I can see why they put them on there. And coming home from that game, it's not till Monday night, so that does avoid the short week because you have that extra day in there before the game, before you play Tampa. Tampa's a team that, they're going to be competitive this year, and I'm not going to count them out as far as, their potential. They drafted well, it looks like, and Baker Mayfield's got another year in that system. I do like the bye week setting up for the Vikings. I think that's really nice because it gives you the time to be rested. And yeah, anything as late as possible for the bye as possible is appreciated. And having it week 8 is better than was it week 5 last year. So it's better than having it that early. And again, it's hard to argue with a lot of things. It's just the schedule is the way it is. The next quadrant is going to get kind of weird, and the last one's going to kind of be the uglier part in a way. But it is what it is when you have 9 road games and 8 home games. Yeah, these are going to be tough matchups, but nothing that sticks out that says I don't like this. Any final thoughts on the second quadrant, guys? No? Okay, well, let's go to the third quadrant, and this is where we grouped 5 games together because it's 5 games in 5 weeks, and this is where things get a little bit crazier. After the Vikings on November 2nd, well, then we go to week 10. They head out to Washington. They play the Commanders on November 9th. That is a 4:25 game, so it's a later game. Then they return. Well, they don't return home, but they play another NFC East team in Philadelphia on the 16th, and that's Sunday Night Football. After that, they'll play the New York Giants back at home, and that sets you up for Thanksgiving. So that's November 23rd. Then on the short week, you play the Packers on Thanksgiving. And then a week later, they're going to play the Cowboys on Thursday Night Football. And so you're going to have your 5 games in there. Everyone's going to talk about, the Giants to the Cowboys, November 23rd to December 4th. You got 3 games and whatever that is, like 12 days or something like that. So, Coach, what are your thoughts on this stretch here?
Oh, this is my red stretch because it's on fire. This is a tough one here. With the Commanders, the Eagles, the Giants, the Packers, and the Cowboys, all NFC games. Playing the Commanders and the Eagles back to back on the road. This is a tough one. The one thing I look at it with this is the Lions over a course of 2.5 years, I believe, maybe 2 years for sure, maybe 2.5. They have not lost back-to-back games. And so I think this is going to be one of those ones that we don't want to lose, back-to-back games anywhere in here. If we can go through that, it's going to be a gauntlet. It's going to be the fire on fire, but it's going to be the toughest part of our schedule, but not still sets up pretty good. And again, go back to the travel thing. We don't have a lot of, they're all short trips for us, which means Lions fans can get to those games.
Yeah, nice job bringing that stat back up about not having back-to-back losses in that amount of time. I forgot about that. That's so darn impressive. And then, yeah, it's a lot of travel here, and you've got, but you're playing NFC East teams, right? You've got Washington and Philly and the Giants right in a row, and then the Cowboys. I mean, I know nobody's going to believe it, but the Cowboys are actually coming to Detroit for a game instead of us going there like 3 years in a row. James, what are some of your takeaways on this quadrant here?
Yeah, that's gonna be a tough one. I mean, playing Washington and Philly back to back on the road is a tough ask. But what was Lions' record on the road last season? It was perfect.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have a revenge narrative against Washington for the playoff game. They're gonna have almost a revenge narrative against the Eagles. Saying, "Hey, we should have won the Super Bowl." We think, if we were healthy, we should have won the Super Bowl, right? I think that's going to be what Dan Campbell's going to be pounding into them that week. This is not your Super Bowl, but we should have been there type of thing. And then the Giants are the Giants. I think they'll be better this season, but I think it's nice having them in the middle, and then you have that really short week in between there. But at least they're not on the road the week before, so they're home both of those games where then they have 4 days in between, so they don't have to travel. If they had to travel in between those, that would just be horrible. And then the Packers on Thanksgiving. I think the Packers are going to be a better team this season than they were last year. The weapons that they added to that offense at wide receiver, that wide receiver room that they have now is pretty crazy. I mean, to the point where the agent for one of them flew into Green Bay and was like, "What's my client's role next year?" Like worried that they're gonna have too many mouths to feed at the wide receiver position. And then I think the Cowboys are going to be a much better team. They've actually, as much as I've criticized Jerry Jones over the years for being not a good general manager, he has followed Brad Holmes and invested a lot into the trenches recently, and they have put together what I think should be a pretty good offensive line this season and two good wide receivers. I mean, George Pickens is, I don't think meant to be a number one, but it can be a pretty great number two wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, and they already have a number one on staff there. So
Mhm.
it's,
Pretty good
maybe
team.
the key was he didn't say he was going all in this year, because all in doesn't really make much sense based on what he did last year. But yeah, they're going to be improved. Yeah, this is a gauntlet right here. I mean, thank you for giving us the Giants in the middle, I guess, at home. But I don't know. The Philly one, I thought they would put that earlier in the season. I just did, because it felt like the 49er one from last year. And the 49er one fell flat because the 49ers were not what they were. But Washington, Philly back to back, those are going to be some tough ones. That Washington game is a 4:25 game on Sunday, the 9th. And then the Eagles are playing, they're playing the Eagles on Sunday Night Football the following week. The good thing is, hey, we're still hanging out in the Eastern time zone. It's like a hour and 45-minute flight from Detroit. So nothing too crazy with that, but those are going to be two really tough games. And now we're at that NFC gauntlet, right, where they're all conference games, and those are going to matter. Packers, short week, but you're home, right? You're home from the Giants, so you're just staying home. And then it's a full 1 week thing when you play the Cowboys. Now, I got the personal not likings here. Like, it's hard for me to get to a Thursday night football game. And so the Lions have two Thursday games at home. The Thanksgiving Day is different, but then you've got the Cowboys the following Thursday. So, and the Cowboys are going to be better. It will not be as easy this year as it was last year. And I'm not saying it was easy last year. I mean, obviously with all those injuries, but I'm going to pull back on that 15-2 thing. Like, I didn't think it was going to happen last year, and it's incredible, but the schedule's tougher this year, even though we might be better. But yeah, that's a rough gauntlet right there, and it doesn't get easier to end the season after that. So, Coach, any of your thoughts on the third quadrant? What color was that one?
That's my red one. That's the one that's on fire.
All right, James, anything else on that third one?
We're gonna have to extinguish some fires in that one.
Yeah, that might be the narratives on social media, like the sky is falling after a game or two in that quadrant, right?
No.
James, any other thoughts on quadrant 3, the red one?
Yeah, Red's right, I think. I mean, 4 of those games are going to be just huge games. 3 of them are primetime games. So I mean, the NFL obviously is liking the ratings that the Lions bring since they've been good the last couple of years. Only 5 1 o'clock games this season, 7 in prime time, and 6 more in the 4 o'clock window, which is the one that draws more eyeballs. So the NFL is scheduling the Lions in prime time a lot.
Yeah. Well, after that Cowboys game, and actually, if I back it up, no, the Packers game on Thanksgiving, that's the last 1 o'clock game the Lions have that season, unless, week 18 gets put at 1 o'clock. Otherwise, they are on Thursday Night Football, 4:25, or the rest of the way. So how does this thing end? Well, the Lions did get 3 home games in a row there to end November and go into December. But also remember, they have one fewer home game than a road game. So that means they're going to finish this season with 3 out of 4 games on the road. December 14th, they travel to the Rams. Now they're coming off the Thursday game before, so they have a little extra time. And you know what? I want to pause here. I got to go back to that Cowboys game a minute. I guess the one good thing is most Thursday games are kind of ugly, right? They just because they're on a short week. But the Lions and Cowboys are both coming off Thanksgiving games. So that should still be a quality game right there. So I think that's a good thing right there. I just want to point that out. That shouldn't be as ugly as some of the Thursday games turn out. But all right, 10 days later, they fly out to California. They play the Rams. After the Rams game, they're back home. They play Pittsburgh on the 21st. Then they get the Vikings. They go to the Vikings on Christmas Day, Netflix special. And then they finish the season against the Bears in Chicago outside. They have not put a dome on Soldier Field yet. Or built a new stadium or anything like that. A lot of things to take away from this final group here. Coach, get us started. What are some things you're thinking?
This is my green zone, baby, because we're on the go. We're going to the playoffs. And so I love the Rams. I pointed out 3 extra days to get ready for the Rams. Jared's going home. I love it. I make McVay and that he's starting to rub me wrong a little bit because they're how great they're going to be. So I just want to go out there and beat them. That's our only long flight, guys. We can. And they may fly out there a couple days early, and practice and get acclimated, and then head back. Then we got the Steelers at home, which I can't really talk about it because I don't even know who's playing quarterback for them. So, the Steelers will be tough. Again, they're in a tough division. So Mike Tomlin, I think, is one of the best coaches in the NFL, and looking forward to seeing the Tomlin Dan Campbell matchup. Hopefully, they wrestle at midfield after the game too. That'd be just awesome.
Forget the coin toss. Just let them do it.
Yeah, just let them go. No, I respect Tomlin almost as much as Dan Campbell. The Vikings away and the Bears away. That's a tough one. Those are going to be two. Again, we want that don't lose 2 in a row mentality that we've done. We can go into beat the Vikings home. The Bears, I hope it's terrible weather because I love when they say Jared Goff can't play in it. Last time it was pouring down rain and all that stuff. I think he had a big game. So. Again, the Bears will have their whole season under them. They'll be shooting. They'll be playing for 3rd place in the division, and we'll be playing for 1. So bring it. Let's go. We're green. Come on, playoffs.
I think Coach just wanted to save green for the end so he could say go green.
Well, true that.
James, what are you making of this 4th quadrant here, the green zone?
Well, a lot of road games. I mean, the Rams game probably isn't going to be a weather game necessarily, unless it's rainy or something like that. But that Bears game certainly could be. That the whole back half of this season has more potential weather games than last year, which was one of the good things about last year's schedule is that they didn't have any of those games outside of domes. Pretty much the last half of the season after I think it was the Chicago game, I think was the last one that was like very beginning of November. But they have at Washington, at Philly, at Bears in November and December this time around. And so weather could be more of a factor than it has been in the past, but I don't think that the knock on Goff for the weather, like Jerry said, that has been kind of disproven the last couple of years. He's played pretty good in the snow, in cold, and the whole team around him obviously has too. So I don't think that that's as big of a worry as it was maybe a year or 2 ago when teams were looking at the schedule.
When you said the Rams, I thought you were going to say it's not going to feel like a road game because you figure Rams fans don't show up the way Lions fans do. But
there's that too. There is that too, and you wonder too. A Christmas game, are Vikings fans going to be going to a Christmas game? Or will Lions fans be able to travel and do that? That'll be one that I think that's kind of up in the air as to whether the Vikings will have the dominant crowd there in that game or not.
Yeah, looking at the travel again, the nice thing is, you still have so many of these games close to home. Uh,
Mhm.
the weather thing, I spent 5 years in the DC area, and November can be a very nice time of year out there.
Mhm.
And so, you travel a little further north to Philly, and it gets to mid-December or mid-November. I mean, November out there is different than November in Michigan, and so you can still feel some great weather out there. And sometimes we make too big of a deal out about weather. I mean, the Lions beat the Packers in Lambeau, James. You were there. I don't know if you had a shirt on or not, but everybody else was frozen, right? I mean, that game was epic.
I was wearing multiple layers, like about six.
I would have been doing the same thing and probably would have found some battery operated socks or something too. But my point is, the Lions are better in bad weather than I think they get credit for. And I'm not look I don't have the stats to back it up in my back pocket here, folks, but I'm just going with the eyeball test. I mean, yeah, that Carolina game a couple years ago didn't go well. But in general, they've done pretty well with adverse weather conditions. Heck, last year in Lambeau, it was horrible weather conditions. It was cold and rainy, and they still took care of business. Going to the Rams, they're going to play Matthew Stafford again. I'm cool with that at this point. Like, it is what it is. You can see the NFL didn't make it anything special, right? But the Rams are going to be good, you guys. They are going to be a team to reckon with this year from the get-go. Coach, I hate to break it to you, but Aaron Rodgers might be coming back to Ford Field. There's a chance he could be the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. Those are where all the tea leaves are blowing to. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, Kirby Joseph is excited about that because he's already got, what, 3 picks against him. We might as well add a couple more.
For sure. The Vikings, I guess, James, the thing I'm thankful is at least it's not a home game on Christmas. It's like Thanksgiving and Christmas for the Lions. And I thought the way Rod Wood was talking about that earlier, that wasn't going to be the case, but apparently it is. And so maybe that will affect some of the Viking crowd. I would like that. And you know what? We're playing the Bears late. At least we get to play them early. It's not like the Vikings last year. We had to play them twice in 4 weeks. I think another NFC East team has that matchup. It might be like Philly and Washington or something late in the year. I'm glad we avoid that. So while I said at the beginning of this that I wasn't going to like it, but I didn't expect to like it, some of my dislikes are just personal reasons for my ability to go to some of the games. It's really not that bad of a schedule if you look at it, all things considered. I mean, the opponents are who the opponents are,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The one thing that worries me about the Christmas game is that it's 4 days after there's only 3 days in between or 4 days in between. It's coming after games against the Rams and the Steelers, who both have very physical defenses, and then you have to travel in those 4 days too. So it's going to be unlike the short turnaround that they have earlier in the season where they're both home, where they're going to have that travel day in between there. So man, they're going to have to get ready for that Vikings game on Christmas Day. But then they'll have extra time to prepare for the Bears for that last game of the season. So
That is true. That Vikings game is a Thursday game. Christmas Day is Thursday. So that's a great point right there. Coach, some of your overall takeaways, some of your overall thoughts. Oh, by the way, before the Lions play the Vikings on that Thursday, I just wanted to look it up real quick. The Vikings are going to be on the East Coast playing the New York Giants. And they will have played Dallas the week before on the 14th of December. Then they travel to the Giants. Then they're home for the Lions. So they'll be traveling and whatnot, and they'll have to travel out west a little bit when they play the Cowboys that week before. So they don't have too much of an advantage on that one, I don't think. So, Coach, any final thoughts on the schedule as a whole or what you're thinking here as we get ready to wrap this up?
Yeah, we talked about it. Still, they have some tough away games against the better opponents in the divisions they're playing, but you know what? This is it's the gauntlet. This is what when you're successful. This is what you have to you have to beat. You have to beat the better teams. And we right now when we talk about the depth and everything like that, we're going to have depth to be able to go through these games. And I'm not, as I look at it in these my color brackets and stuff like that, I'm saying 12-5, guys, possibly 13-4. I'm I feel comfortable with it. Dan Campbell, and that's all I need to say.
All right. Yeah, you reading my mind or something here, man? Like we are on the same wavelength here. James, I said one of my biggest dislikes is a personal thing, right? Of just being able to attend some games or whatnot. You've got a dislike on here that kind of is in the same category.
Yeah, I dislike that in order to watch every Detroit Lions game, you're going to have 6 different streaming platforms. You're going to have to, or just cable. You're going to have the Fox, CBS, NBC, ABC, Netflix, and Amazon Prime. Fox has got 8 of those, and then ABC 2, CBS 2, NBC 2, and then one each on Netflix and Prime. That's just the NFL is spreading this out too much. I think NFL fans are going to start getting a little bit of fatigue on this, having to try to subscribe to so many different things to be able to watch their team's entire season. So I think they gotta. I know it's a big money maker for them, but man, they gotta consider the fans' pocketbook a little bit in this.
Yeah, yeah, that is quite the eclectic collection there of channels to watch the game on. It's not just put on the rabbit ears anymore. You've got to actually get some other things with Netflix and Prime getting that and schedule accordingly. So, but it's better than having all 1 o'clock games. I will say that. I mean, I like the 1 o'clock consistent time window, but when you're popular and you're playing some good teams, people want to watch it. James, and I guess the last thing I would say on that is, yeah, you may have to go to a friend's house to catch some of those streaming games. I got to double check if I'm at my parents' on Christmas or what we're doing. But the nice thing is we used our Netflix account last year down there, so we were able to get together and watch the game still. James, Coach said 12-5, maybe 13-4. What are you thinking on the record for this season? Anything jumping out to you on that?
I think if they're healthier than last season, which is pretty well assured. I don't know that you can be worse than last year. Yeah, I think 12-5 is totally doable against a much tougher schedule than last season. And so I can go 12-5. I think
And
that
is that a good record to you?
yeah, if they're 12-5, I can see them being better than that, of course. But I think 12-5 is going to be good enough for them to get a home game and to at least start the playoffs and maybe another one, depending on how other divisions shake out. I mean, the kind of the couple divisions are just kind of stacked, so you never know exactly how the seeding's gonna shake out after the Lions' proposal didn't go anywhere.
For sure. I mean, Lions were 15-2, Vikings were 14-3, and Packers were 11-6. But as we pointed out, all NFC North teams have a tougher road this year. So those numbers probably won't be that way. I'm going 12-5 too, Coach, with maybe a 13-4. I'm going to go with this old adage of Lomas Brown. He said with Wayne Fonts, if they could win all their home games and split their road games, that would put them at 12-4 back in the day. I know they're road warriors last year, but we know the road's going to be a war this year for sure. So if they're 12-5, I think they can win the division at that, James, and I think they get the home playoff game. And and you know what? That's what I said before the schedule came out. Once I saw the opponents, nothing makes me wander from that. So 12-5, maybe 13-4. All right. Couple things to quick point out. OTAs, those are May 28th to the 30th, and then June 3rd to 5th. Mini camp has been canceled this year, folks. That's June 10th to 12th. But training camp is probably going to open earlier because the Lions are playing in the Hall of Fame game. That's July 31st, which is why we think the mini camp was canceled. They have 3 preseason games. They play at the Falcons week 1. They're home for the Miami Dolphins and then home for the Houston Texans for their 3 preseason games. So we'll see. So they have 4 of them in total. And we'll talk about that more as we move forward through the offseason. But any final thoughts here, James, before we get you out of here?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to this season. I'm pretty excited about it and can't wait to get going.
All right, Coach, how about you?
Yeah, just the same. Can't wait to see how these young guys progress during training camps.
Awesome. Folks, we'd love to hear what you think about the schedule. If you find us on social medias or on YouTube, throw some comments in there. Let us know what you think. Are you liking it? Are there things you like or dislike about the schedule? Would love to hear your thoughts and the why behind that as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please tell your friends and family about this show. Remind them you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can find a video version on YouTube. And check out more episodes and content at notthesameoldlions.com. And until next time, stay gritty, my friends.